The big man portal curse is finally and gloriously over. Henry Veesaar, Tar Heel.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It is still Friday, April 4th, 2025. Welcome into this Locked On Tar Heels podcast, live edition coming at you Friday afternoon as the work week ends. If you're still sitting at work, you should just stop and go home. It's done. It's over. It's time to celebrate. And however you celebrate, you need some wings, eat some wings. I don't know what you do, but it's time to celebrate. Tell your boss you're done. You need half an hour of PTO. It's all over. It's all over. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Special shout out to all the everydayers joining us, all the great members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great insiders as well. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Head over to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from. Need one right now? You probably do, because you're ramped up after this great news. Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. Stock up today and stay energized. Whoo! The not so long wait is over. You know, it starts to feel long in the midst of it. It's like, oh, Henry Veesaar, you're never going to commit. Well, it's been less than 2 days since he left. It's great news. Goes home late Wednesday night. Henry Veesaar does. Thinks about it for a little bit, and now he's a Tar Heel. There's obviously going to be a ton to talk about with this in the coming days. This is massive for Carolina, both literally and figuratively in terms of resume building, roster building. We absolutely love that. So we'll talk about Veesaar. I'll get you acquainted with him in case some of you haven't yet quite done so, because I know there's a big contingent out there that's like, I ain't even looking at anybody until they decide to commit. And that's fine, and I get that. So we'll update you on him. I've got my scholarship chart ready for you, so we'll look at that. We'll talk about the depth chart, what this means for the likes of Van Allen Lubin and Caleb Wilson, all of that conversation. And then, obviously, the next thing we all turn our attention to is point guard, because the Tar Heels need a point guard. So we'll get to that later as well. I know there's already a bunch of comments going on in the chat, and so go ahead and drop those in. If we got some space in the third segment, we'll get to that. So let's start just getting to know Henry Veesaar a little bit. I like to call this dude the Big Estonian. He is a 7-foot tall basketball player. It just feels good to be able to say, there's just something about that number 7. It's a perfect number in the Bible, right? And so it's good for us on the basketball roster as well. I've been laughing because my neighbors, I have a pond behind my house. My neighbors have a foreign exchange student. His name's Art, and he's Estonian. And all season long, I've been telling them, you guys, there's this Estonian guy. His name's Henri Veesaar. He plays for Arizona. You should check him out. You're going to love him. And now I get to talk about him all the time because he's a Tar Heel. How cool is this, man? It's meant to be. The basketball gods knew what they were doing. Henry Veesaar, 7 feet tall, 235 pounds. He has spent 3 years at Arizona, went there in 2022, but he does have 2 years of eligibility left because he hurt his elbow in a golf cart accident ahead of the 23-24 season. So he redshirted that one. So he's just finishing his sophomore year. And so that means he's got 2 years left for the Tar Heels, should he want to use them both. You know, there's a very real world in which he just has another breakout like he did last year at Arizona and winds up in the NBA. And if so, we move on from there because that is college basketball in this day and age. What I kind of love about this is he broke out this year, kind of out of nowhere, right? A lot of the conversation have been like, man, I don't know about Henry Veesaar. He's not really lived up to his potential. It's kind of bust, I don't know. And then it just clicked mid-season this year, and he took off like a bullet out of a gun, man. And it is so great. So if this guy's going to be a Tar Heel, we need to make sure we know how to spell his name, and we need to make sure we know how to say it. So let's start with pronunciation. It's just like V-A-Y, like say, but with a V. Ve, and then Sar, S-A-R, Veesaar. Henry Veesaar. And then the spelling of it, it's V-E-S-A-R, but both vowels are doubled. So V-E-E-S-A-A-R. Get it right. Spelling matters. And it's an I, not a Y on the end of Henry. one of the things people I think were a little bit freaked out about is that he had a do not contact tag when he entered the transfer portal, because in previous years, the do not contact has been like, I already know where I'm going. Don't even holler at me. Well, now it's just more about, and this will be true of a lot of the guys that still enter the portal, contact my agent, not me. That's kind of what it means. So pre-Arizona for Henri Veesaar, he was from Tallinn, Estonia, just a little bit down the way. If you've tracked Kirk Reese's career, he's also from Estonia. One of the crazy things about Henri Veesaar, participated with the Estonian senior national team ahead of Arizona in 2021 and became the youngest ever Estonian player to see action in a FIBA qualifier. That's pretty cool stuff there. Played 3 seasons in the Real Madrid youth program, which is great. Like that is a really, really, like if you know anything about soccer, you know about Real Madrid. Well, it's not just soccer. They do a little bit of everything. In the 21-22 season, had 10.2 points a game, shot 67.3% from the field, 35.2% from 3. The year before that, 16.2 points, 11.5 rebounds, 3.8 blocks, and 2.6 assists. Henri Veesaar, he's not Nikola Jokic, but it's like that kind of like does a little bit of everything. Now, what we got to know about Arizona, let's talk about this past season. He played all 37 games from Arizona, only had 5 starts. And let's address that right out of the gate, because I know there's a whole contingent that is probably very concerned about that. Hold on, Isaac. We're all up in arms about this guy, but he didn't even start for Arizona. No, he didn't. And that's because Tobe Awaka was very, very good after transferring over from Tennessee. But Veesaar comes in, he averaged 20 minutes a game and did a lot of great things. I'm not concerned about that. He averaged 9.4 points a game, 5 rebounds, 1.3 assists, and 1.1 blocks. And again, I hear that, and I know that it's not like, Isaac, that's not jumping off the page at me. I don't know about it. Well, let me give you his per 40-minute numbers, and maybe that'll help you feel a little better. 18 points a game. This is per 40, so stay with me on that. 18 points a game, 9.6 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 1.3 steals, 2.2 blocks, and 2.2 turnovers. So has a positive assist to turnover ratio. Coach Rob talked about that yesterday, how much he liked that. His 3-point shooting is 32.7 on 2.5 attempts a game. Now, that is not like, whoa, Henri Veesaar, you out here setting the world on fire. I recognize that. But the fact that this 7-footer is shooting 32.7% from beyond the arc is great. That's enough. It's enough. Sure, you'd love it to go up, but that's enough to have some gravity. It's enough to pull a bigger 5 out on him, and that causes driving lanes. That opens up other spacing, and then he can go back in and do what he needs to do. Because here's what you need to know about how ridiculous this is. His 2-point percentage, his freshman year at Arizona, was 74.2%. Now, albeit that was just 1.1 attempts a game. This year, his 2-point percentage was 66.9%, 4.6 attempts a game there. Keep in mind, that's what Van Allen Lubin did. So you got a couple guys at the 5 spot that are both shooting over 65% on the season this year. That's incredible. And with Veesaar, when he really stepped up this year, Mo Krivas, who Arizona had been rolling with, went down with an injury, and that's when he really came into really playing a pivotal role there for Arizona. And so while the season-long numbers you're like 9.4 points, 5 rebounds, Isaac, I don't know. In Big 12 only stats, he was second in offensive rating in the entire Big 12. Think about the entirety of the Big 12. We're talking Kansas. We're talking BYU. We're talking Baylor. We're talking Houston. We're talking on and on and on. All of these great teams. This dude is second in the conference in offensive rating. He in conference only. I just talked about how well he shot from 2 season long. Hear me say this. Henri Veesaar, I'm so excited. I'm like accidentally shaking my mic here. Henri Veesaar in Big 12 only games shot 70% from 2. That is absolutely absurd. And it was second in the entire Big 12. And the thing you need to know with Henri Veesaar, like some 7-footers are like, oh, you're 7 feet tall. Congratulations to you. It's not just about being big with Henri Veesaar. It is the fact that he has skills. He can pass the ball. Like those things are going to happen. That's good. There's that offensive ability, the high-low passing where he's going to be able to look for that. So if he gets out where he can also shoot, but maybe he's looking for somebody inside and he can do that. One of the cons from here, maybe not necessarily a con, but just let's watch for it. I asked Coach Bill Robinson this on yesterday's show. I said, Coach Rob, are you at all concerned about the fact that this breakout was basically just February and on? Was it a legit breakout, or is it just like, hey, that just happened for 2 months and we'll see what happens? And he said, without hesitation, I might add, you can go back and watch it. There's just something that happens, and it seems to happen a lot with big men, where all of a sudden it clicks and then they've got it and they're not going back. So that is very encouraging for me. For Henri Veesaar, that division from the beginning of the season through January, and then those last 2 months when the breakout took hold, listen to these numbers, and then we'll get ready to move on, and we'll talk about scholarship and depth chart and all that stuff. First 20 games of Arizona's season, Henri Veesaar scored in double digits 5 times. Respectable. He had a max, his high scoring total in that stretch was 19 points. He averaged 7.6 points a game and 1.05 blocks. In the final 17 games, so February and March, like literally division at January and February. In those final 17 games, he scored 11 double-digit games. So 11 of their final 17, he had double digits. His high was 22 points in that stretch. He went from 7.6 points a game up to 11.5 points a game, and his blocks went up by nearly like 0.2 of a block a game, up to like 1.25 blocks a game. So Henri Veesaar, when it all came together and he started getting more playing time, that's when it really took off. And so somebody in the comments after I posted a thing earlier today, like when Travis Brandon posted his crystal ball, I just put up a short about it. And somebody was like, you got out here acting like he's Ralph Sampson and he hung the moon. Well, look, he doesn't have to be Ralph Sampson to improve on what Carolina had last year in the front court. And I say that with all due respect to Jalen Washington and Van Allen Lubin and James Brown and Jalen Withers and Ty Clott. Due respect to those guys, our ceiling just became the roof. And yes, he's not Ralph Sampson. Good grief, that would be glorious. I would take Ralph Sampson in a heartbeat. But he has changed North Carolina's roster immediately for next year. And so that's what we're going to continue to talk about here coming up in just a second. What does the scholarship chart look like? What does the depth chart look like? What does this mean for Van Allen Lubin? What does this mean for all sorts of other stuff? We'll get to those conversations in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends at Prize Picks. Look, baseball season is in full swing. Not my Braves. They're not in full swing. They're 0-7. Please, dear goodness, get a win over the Marlins tonight. But there's no better way to get in on the sports action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick just more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. So whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. Setting a lineup takes less than 60 seconds, and when you win, your payout is quick, it's safe, and best of all, it's secure. I always like to take advantage of their Taco Tuesday, where they have big discounts on select player projections. We've got the semifinals of the NCAA tournament tomorrow. I got you a more or less one player from each team. Cooper Flagg, 19 points. More or less with that. Walter Clayton Jr. from Florida, 21 points. LJ Cryer from Houston, 16 points. And Janai Broom from Auburn, 20 points. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Great to be here talking about Henri Veesaar committing to the North Carolina Tar Heels. And what does that mean? It means I have to update the scholarship chart. So for those of you watching on YouTube, I have pulled that up in real time. If you're watching back to this later, what's up? So glad that you're here as well. Man, I need to say again, after everything we suffered through last offseason, all the stops and starts, all the misses, all the everything, Carolina has finally broken this curse. They finally landed their big man and do it so early in the transfer portal season that now they can really focus on, okay, what are the other pieces we need to surround what we've now brought in with Jonathan Powell from West Virginia earlier this week and now with Henri Veesaar? Who is that point? And we'll get to that point guard in the next segment. We want to talk more about that. But are you feeling that? Like, all off season and all this season, I just felt trapped. I felt cursed. Like, why could Carolina not do it? In comes Jim Tanner, and here we go. I don't know if his previous international connections have anything to do with this. We're going to have to talk about that more in the coming days and weeks. But my goodness, what a splash. Okay. What we need to talk now is scholarship chart, depth chart, what this means for players on the roster. Obviously, we still wait for decisions from people on the roster. Ian Jackson, Drake Powell both have NBA decisions that they need to make. I said it on today's show, but I would imagine, if I was guessing today, that Ian Jackson will wind up being out the door. Drake Powell will stay. That could be completely wrong and backwards, but whatever. That's just where I'm thinking. It seems like, from what we've heard and been told and just hints and reading between the lines, that both Seth Trimble and Van Allen Lubin plan to stay. Even with this news, I would imagine Van Allen Lubin, I hope, will still stay. I'll explain that in just a second. But then there's others, Cade Tyson, James Brown. This might have impacts for him. Zayden High, for example. So we're going to have to continue to track that. But as for right now, Carolina finally has it with Elliot Cadeau entering the transfer portal. Carolina didn't have a junior on the roster. Now they do. It's a redshirt junior, Henri Veesaar. So 3 rising seniors. That'll be Van Allen Lubin, Seth Trimble, and Cade Tyson as things stand today, Friday, April 4th. The 1 junior in Henri Veesaar. 5 sophomores, including Zayden High, the redshirt sophomore, along with James Brown, Ian Jackson, Drake Powell, and the newly incoming Jonathan Powell. Now, again, all of this is if each of those guys stay. We're just looking at where things are today with what we know publicly. And then the incoming 3-man freshman class of Caleb Wilson, Isaiah Dennis, and Derek Dixon. We look forward to those guys. So as of right now, there are 12 scholarship level players on the roster. For those of you watching, you can see that right there on your screen. Depth chart wise, what does this do for the front court? Well, obviously you already had Van Allen Lubin. He had been the starting big, the starting 5, the starting center down the stretch for North Carolina, accompanied by Jalen Withers in the front court. Obviously Jalen Withers is out of eligibility. And so at least one of those front court positions has to be replaced. One of the questions I've been asked multiple times this week is, hey, Isaac, is there a world in which you see Henri Veesaar and Van Allen Lubin starting together at the 4 and 5? I don't. I do not. I think there might be times when we see them on the floor together. I don't know that there's enough shooting with that, and I don't know that. I would just be curious to see Van Allen Lubin in that scenario against stretch 4s, more mobile 4s, guys that can get out and get them up. What I anticipate will happen, and obviously, this is like a way too early top 25, but how I see this playing out is Henri Veesaar is your starting 5, Caleb Wilson is your starting 4, and then you're bringing Van Allen Lubin off the bench. And what's great about that is either of those guys could be a starter, Veesaar or Lubin. Either of those guys could play 20 to 25 minutes a game, but basically you've got 20 minutes of Veesaar. Excuse me just a second. I got a cough. Got like a tickle in my throat. I couldn't get rid of. I'm so sorry. Welcome to live podcasting, everybody. 20 to 25 minutes of Henri Veesaar, 20 to 25 minutes of Van Allen Lubin. And that combination, I love the combo of Van Allen and Veesaar because they bring, different sizes, different skill sets, different capabilities of what they do so well. And I cannot fathom having to be a head coach planning for both of those dudes along with Caleb Wilson. And then you look at some of the others, you've got James Brown. Maybe he's going to step up this offseason. And then you've got a 4th legit option there in the front court. Zayden High, is he legitimately going to be part of this team in this roster? And if so, that's part of that conversation at the 4 spot as well. But and we, you worry like, I don't know, does this mean Ven's going to transfer? Does this mean he's not going to get enough minutes? I don't think it does. I think there are plenty of minutes still available. And besides, can you imagine, let's say Henri Veesaar gets in foul trouble. Okay, Ven, you play more minutes today. Let's say Ven gets in foul trouble. Cool. Henry, you play more minutes today. What a great tandem. I was thinking duo and tandem at the same time, and I said tando. Okay, there's that. But we saw this 2 years ago in UConn's first championship run, where Adama Sanogo was the starter, and then you had Donovan Clingan as the backup as a younger guy. It was kind of inverted, where Sanogo is more the Van Allen Lubin and Clingan is more the Veesaar. But to have both of these guys, like, I think that's a model that Hubert Davis and the staff should go look at. How did UConn handle that well? How did they do that so well? And that's going to be something that they can definitely look at. And obviously now in the front court, or excuse me, in the back court and at the wing, you've still got all your possibilities there. You've got Seth Trimble, Cade Tyson, who could play the 3 or the 4. Man, I really do wonder if he will stick around and figure out what was going on between his ears, because the shot is there, man. He can do it. I think it's just a confidence thing. Like, I can do this at this level. Ian Jackson, again, I think he will be off, but man, if he comes back, that's your starting 2, clearly and obviously. Drake Powell, the hope is that he stays. He's your starting 3. You've now got Jonathan Powell as well, can step into that 2 or 3 position. The other 2 freshmen, Isaiah Dennis and Derek Dixon, they can be 2s and 3s, maybe handle the ball a little bit here and there as needed. But as you hear me laying out that depth chart, what you see and what you hear is that there is a clear void, in my opinion. I know there are some people that fully believe Seth can and should be the point guard next year. I believe that Carolina should still look for a point guard. I think Seth can do that in spurts, and it would be great. But I think that steals him away from doing some of what he does very best, and that is getting out in transition and defending and all of that, that just makes him so special with his athleticism. I would love to see Carolina land somebody to fill that role. Now, the problem is a couple of those guys went off the board literally today, but there's a couple other guys that have hopped in. Where are we at? Do we need to freak out about the point guard situation like we had the curse last year with the bigs? I don't know, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends at 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings, man, it has snuck up on us yet again. And if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has got your back. The extra sunshine, it means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little extra boost to power through. So whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, like tomorrow night you will be, or squeezing in an extra round of golf after work, maybe you're just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I've been staying up way too late having to cover the NCAA tournament. I love it. I absolutely love what I get to do, but man, I'm living exhausted right now. And I tell you what, 5 Hour Energy is that jolt I need to help keep me going the very next day. So whether I'm at a game, whether I'm traveling to go do studio work, or just sitting here chatting with everybody like I love to do, 5 Hour Energy really, really, really is that easy thing to grab to help me keep feeling refreshed. So head on over to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from. That includes watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12 or 24 pack and have it delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. All right, point guard. That is where we have to turn, because Carolina doesn't have it right now. And so I think there is a tendency that we're all going to want to get concerned about point guard at the level that we were concerned about center last year, where it was like, yes, we have Jalen Washington. He's not the guy. Again, due respect to Jalen Washington. All of these guys out there, Carolina struck out and struck out and struck out. To this point, we've seen a lot of the same. A lot of these guys going other places. Literally today, Nate George, just like moments before I hopped on to record this with you all. Nate George, the Georgia Tech transfer, who a lot of people who had a Zoom call with Carolina last night, Thursday night, just committed to Syracuse. Jacoby Gillespie, the Maryland transfer, whom I love his game, committed to Tennessee earlier today. That was the expectation. He's from that area. Coach Rob talked about it yesterday. But still, there's like this glimmer of like, man, I love his game. Could we get him? And then a bunch of, several other guards that we were interested in as well are out. So there is all of that. But one of the things I've been consistent in saying is don't freak out yet. The transfer portal has several weeks still to go. There are going to be others that are going to get into the portal. There are names you don't even know about right now. There are guys making decisions with roster construction and roster moves that it's like, we will find out. But just before I say names, don't lose your cool. I don't know who it is that Carolina is going to wind up with at point guard. I do know that they need to get one. And that's where we're at. The first comment we had in the chat today came from Christopher Fields, and he said, "Hey, Isaac, I'm glad we finally got a true center." Same. The curse is over. I'll say it again. But Christopher says, who do you see them going after now at point guard now that Nate George from Georgia Tech is going to Syracuse? Shouts to my guy, Jackson Holzer, the great host of Locked on Syracuse, who was giving me crap about this earlier today. So fine, whatever, Jackson. You take your W and you move on. Everybody go give Jackson crap on Locked on Syracuse. There's Jalen Lowe. I liked him right out of the gate as somebody Carolina could look at. I'm always like, who gave us fits? Let's look at them. Apparently, from an article that Tar Heel Illustrated put out today, it looks as though Carolina and Kentucky and Houston are all interested in Jalen Lowe. He is somebody that has a lower 3-point shooting percentage, but does so many other things well. And so that's encouraging. Some of the other things that are out are I joked the other day, like, hey, Marcus Burton, why don't you hop in? Well, the bad news is that Marcus Burton has decided that he's not going to enter the portal. He's going to stay at Notre Dame. Okay, fine. We'll deal with that as we have to. And then you had Trey Donaldson, the point guard from Michigan. He committed to Miami. We learned Isaac McNeely, not a point guard. He's a shooting guard, but he's transferring to Louisville. And so there are those things too. And Silas Demery, not truly a point guard, but he's going to UConn. So there's just all of those. But there, again, to my point about there are other names that are going to come in. Jalen Lowe is somebody to watch. There will be some others. But two names that popped up on the radar literally earlier today, because again, it can happen at any time. Xavion Lee, point guard from Princeton. I hear it as I say it. Yes, he is an Ivy League guard, and that's what it is. What it is. But let's talk about this, and then I'll talk about that. He is a 6'4" point guard. He's a rising senior, 1 year of eligibility. This year at Princeton, 16.9 points a game, 6.1 boards a game, 5.5 assists a game, 1.2 steals a game, and shot 37% from three. He does a little bit of everything. Also has a DNC tag, a do not contact, but similar to what I said earlier, it's not something I'm concerned about because that's more about go through my agent than I already know who I want to have. Some news on Friday was that Kentucky is certainly in contact with him. Something you need to know about Xavier Lee is he's also going through the draft process. So we need to be aware that is a possibility that he could wind up just going to the draft and that's that, right? Like that's part of it. Which, by the way, it's crazy because of all the transfer portal stuff. I feel like I've hardly heard any. I mean, there have been a couple, but the number of NBA draft decisions has not been like we haven't had the flood of that. I feel like go watch Xavier Lee on tape. I am astounded by it. Coach Pat Kilby and I were talking about it earlier today, and he's a doubter of Xavier Lee. And so I just want to present that as like different people feel different ways. I really like his tape, man. His handles, I feel like translate to any level. Just go watch what Jonathan Gavoni from Draft Express that works for ESPN that he posted today, this highlights package. Has a just ridiculous step back a couple minutes into it for a three around. I think it was like the 25-second mark. He has these back-to-back buckets where he just puts dudes on skates and then goes and finishes with both hands. Xavier Lee this season, literally just this season, had 2 triple doubles. In the history of North Carolina basketball, there have been 2 triple doubles. Just 2 in the history. Again, the history of Carolina basketball. And Xavier Lee, again, at the Ivy League level, did that twice just this season. I feel like that there is always the question we have to ask. Does this translate from the Ivy League to the ACC or to Carolina or any other power conference? Sure, we got to ask the question. But I will say this. I watch a lot of basketball players. I don't just cover the Tar Heels. I cover college basketball nationally. So I watch a lot of basketball. And from what I see, he's got it. It's not just that, but the fact that he has some NBA draft buzz. From the draft boards I've been looking at so far this spring, he's lower, like a late second rounder, most places, or off the board. And so I think right now his best bet is probably to stay in school and get paid at a high major level. The fact that Kentucky's in on him, other high-level power conference schools are going to be in on him, makes me think that it's not just my eyeball saying that it is other talent evaluators who also believe that Xavier Lee can do it at a higher level than Princeton. So I'm ultimately not worried. And I got to tell you, I've just sat and watched highlights and game film a lot of today on him because I'm quite enamored. Will the Tar Heels get in on him? I don't know. But boy, I think they should. I like Xavier Lee as a potential point guard for Carolina. Another name to just have your eyeballs aware of, and I promise you, I do not know how to say this, but I'm going to spell it properly for you. It's a Serbian young man. He's 20 years old, and his first name is Ognjen. I'm just going to call it Onion. Like kind of, I've been saying it in my head like onion, Onion Stankovic or Stankovic, which I hope it's Stankovic. That would be hilarious. But per Sam Kaiser on Twitter, he signed with Weave to explore college option for next season. Literally, just recently here. He's a 6'8" guard, great length, impacts both ends of the floor, and he is going to get serious high major attention. In the ABA U19s this year, 21.8 points a game, 5.8 boards, 4.8 assists, and 2.3 steals. Man, he does a little bit of everything, and I love everything about it. So, that's just where we're at with the guard situation. It's got time to unpack. We're all going to get worked up about it. We're going to be worried and wondering, but I got to ask us all to exercise and caution some patience with it. Let's just celebrate right now what we've got with Henri Veesaar. What a massive, literally massive win for Carolina. I'm so excited about it. I hope you are too. So we will keep tabs on all the portal stuff going on. I'll be back with you on Monday, unless there's more news that somehow breaks this weekend, which it could. Even though it's the dead period, they can still have conversation. They just can't be face-to-face in person. So keep in mind that. If you have not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, where you can get all of my transfer portal rumors and news and all of that, join it right now. That link's in the show notes. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, where we're just like 15 away from hitting 500 members, we'd love to have you there. That link is also in the show notes. If you've not subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels, do it right over here, just down here. Hit it so that you don't miss a single episode of the show. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel, especially when we get a big commitment. Let's go. Thanks, Arizona. Thanks for giving us back after having Caleb Love. We appreciate you, Coach Steve Robinson. Way to go. We'll talk again on Monday, but until then, peace.